Hi, this is Matt Ingram with a quick tour of R. In this video, we'll be covering how to download and install R from the internet. You'll need an internet connection for this. We'll also be covering ways to access R once it's installed on your machine. There are several ways to do this. I'll also highlight three features of R: the fact that it's free, the fact that it's open source, and I'll emphasize the fact that you should be doing all of your work in R scripts. I'll emphasize this throughout the course, but especially early on in the course. Working in scripts has several advantages that I hope will become evident to you early on. Lastly, we'll be looking at several additional resources that can help you learn how to use R and learn how to make it work for you. First of all, we need to download and install R, so we'll follow this link to the CRAN site. We'll need to select our platform, so most of us will be working in a Windows or Mac environment. We'll follow the relevant link and then follow the step-by-step instructions from there to download and install R on our machine. So we'll follow this link first to the CRAN site. Excuse me. As noted at the top of the page, CRAN stands for the Comprehensive R Archive Network. And right away you see three links for downloading R to three different platforms: Linux machines, Mac OS machines, and Windows platforms. So most of us will be working in Mac or Windows environments, so you'll follow that link. For instance, I'm working on a Windows machine. I could follow this link. Most of us will be installing R for the first time, so just follow this link here to install R for the first time, and then the first link at the very top will take you to the most recent version of R. That will install an executable file on your machine. It is a fairly large file, so allow it some time depending on the speed of your internet connection, and then follow the instructions from there. If for some reason you find yourself on the R homepage, which looks like this, just follow the download link here. It'll take you to another page that asks you to select a mirror site. Just go down to the United States. The closest ones for us are the ones that are in Pennsylvania, specifically in Pittsburgh. You could pick the first one here, and you're back at the site, at the page at which we started. So you'd need to select your link there and follow the instructions from there. So that's how you would download and install R to your machine. Once R is on your machine, there are several ways to access and then use R. You could begin from the command shell, or you could use a graphical user interface that's installed with R. It's installed alongside R in the standard installation. You could also use RStudio. This is what I would recommend, and I have created a separate video just for RStudio, but I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. And there are actually multiple other options. Indeed, the Journal of Statistical Software dedicated an entire issue in 2012 to other options, and we'll see what those look like in just a second. So first, let's take a look at the command shell. Basically, if you're on a Windows machine as I am, you can go to Run and then click OK. It'll bring up your command shell. I've already opened one here, and then to access R, I would simply type the file path to R, and if I hit return after this, you'll see it calls R, and I can start entering commands right at this command line here. So for instance, one of the packages that's already loaded is base, and includes several functions in it. It's already in there. We could take the mean of the numbers 5 through 10. It should be 7.5. So there's 7.5. Some people will use R as a calculator for this reason. We could raise 2 to the power of 2. That should be 4. There's 4. But we could start doing a lot of much more advanced calculations and computations in R right here from the command line. Most of us will not be working with this in this environment. You could also call R scripts from the command line, uh, but most of us will be working from either the graphical user interface, which is installed with R, or RStudio. Again, I recommend RStudio, and I'll make my reasons clear in just a second, and in the separate video. But this is what the graphical user interface installed alongside R looks like. When you open it, the R console opens in the top left. This is where most of your results will appear. You will be working from scripts, so you could open a new R script, or you could open an existing script that you have perhaps saved to a folder. But if you open a new R script, this is what it looks like. This is basically a text editor, so you could start typing commands here and then execute them. You could highlight this command, and then if you hit Control R, just hitting Control R, it'll execute that command in the console window. Obviously, start typing commands here is not a command, so they get an error message. But this is essentially the basic mechanics that you will use repetitively throughout this course. You'll be typing your syntax in this editor here, in this script, and then executing. Your results will execute in the console window over here. If you happen to generate a plot, then that plot will appear in the top right over here. So this is a very basic introduction to what the R graphical user interface looks like. There are several options up at the top to copy and paste, to run a line or selection. You could run your entire script by running all, or you could just select the first line, say start typing commands here, and run the line. You could see it just ran it again, just as I had done before with Control R. You can also load packages, check packages, and then change the way the GUI is displayed. You can also access help, various manuals that you can access through here, and do some other search functions for frequently asked questions, etc. So this is your basic graphical user interface that's installed alongside R. RStudio looks like this. You can download it directly from the internet. If you follow this link here, it'll basically take you to the RStudio homepage. This is an independent site, but you could download RStudio from here, and that basically will provide you with this interface, IDE, and an interactive development environment that's called RStudio. This area is displayed in black here. I've simply changed the way it's displayed so that the text is displayed in a lighter color against a dark background. Some people say that's better for your eyes. You would basically do that in tools here in the global options. You can do that under appearance. I've basically got tomorrow night bright as my setup here, but I'll just cancel out of this. But this dark black area here is the same thing as our console area in the top left here in our GUI. So this is our console area. If I were to open a new R script, it would show up in the top left. So that's the same thing as this R script in the center of the R GUI that I've located in the center of the R GUI. So here we have our R script. So I could start typing commands up here in the script. I could highlight this and then hit Control R, and I would get the same execution down here in the R console. Again, that's exactly the same in terms of content as we just saw in the previous interface. Some of the benefits of RStudio are in the two windows on the right, which give you a little bit more flexibility in examining your history of your commands, or in examining your data or your environment that are active. But you also have several more tools up at the top, and I'll get to those in a separate video. Again, the point here is just to introduce another way of accessing R on your machine. Returning to our slides, there are multiple other options available um, if the R GUI or RStudio do not meet your needs. Again, the Journal of Statistical Software dedicated an entire issue in 2012 to this topic, and you can see all of these different options here if you follow the link. So I encourage you to read through these if you for some reason find either the command shell, the R GUI, or RStudio inadequate for your needs. Returning to the slides then, I'd like to highlight three things about R at this point. One thing which should already be self-evident from having downloaded R and installed it on your machine and accessed it is that it's free. It's constantly being updated, so you have access to free, current, updated software on an ongoing basis. It's also open source. In this the advantages of open source programs or environments might not be self-evident to some, but basically, if we go into RStudio here, we could type in a command that we're going to learn later on, which is a linear model. This is a more advanced command related to regression analysis that we'll learn about towards the end of the semester. But that's the basic shorthand, the basic syntax for that command. If for some reason you are unfamiliar with the mechanics underlying that command, or the mechanics underlying any command for that reason, for that matter, you could simply type the command with nothing else, hit enter, and in R you can see how that command is structured. What is the underlying code that generates the results from that command. So this is what it means to be open source. Somebody could recreate a variation of the LM command, which stands for linear model, but they could you yourself could create a variation of this command by examining this code and making adjustments as needed. This is a major advantage to open source software, open source environments in general, is that you can very clearly see the nuts and bolts of what's working underneath a command that you might be using. This is a way of peeking under the hood, so to speak, of programming and software and statistical analysis commands to see exactly what is happening, and maybe you want to make an adjustment, or maybe you want to create a new command of your own or a new package of your own that does something slightly different. You could look at existing commands, examine their code, and develop something new. So that's what it means to be free. That's what it means to be open source. And then another thing that I'd like to highlight is this notion of scripts, and we already saw them here in the graphical user interface. This is the script. You could save this by once you've clicked in here and you're in this script, you can save it to a folder of your choice. Same thing in RStudio. If you're working in this script up here, up in the top left, you could also save it to the folder of your choice. The advantage here is that you can keep building a project as you go. You don't have to keep starting from scratch. You can also share this script with other people. You can share it with me if you're running into some trouble and are looking for some help. I can see exactly what it is you're doing, what it is that you're doing in your script. And you can share it online and get help online with other people who are interested in R. And we'll see other advantages of working in scripts here. But scripts will play a crucial role in this course. You will find yourself creating, running, and saving scripts repeatedly throughout this course. So I strongly encourage you, indeed I require you, to become familiar with working in scripts and to do all of your work in R scripts. So that's it for now oh, excuse me, one more thing, additional resources. If you're interested in exploring um, other resources or find yourself needing answers to questions that we haven't covered or that occur to you while you're working on your own, here are several resources. There's the R project homepage, which we've already seen. You might also be curious to learn more about the background or the history of R. There is an R journal that has a lot of short and medium length pieces about R, including a section for new users to make some of the less intuitive features of R more intuitive. If you have a question about R syntax or R commands, there's a guide to posting questions about R so that there is a standard format being followed to maximize the clarity of the questions and then the ability of R users to respond to those questions. There are also independent sites like QuickR or R bloggers that cover a wide range of topics. The stated mission of the QuickR site is to bring people who are familiar with statistical methods but are working in other software environments to bring those people into R, so that might be a helpful site for some people. In any case, these are several additional resources that might be helpful to you. And that's it for now. Again, the topic of RStudio is covered in a separate video, and I discuss the strengths of RStudio more thoroughly and emphasize why I recommend that for people. But that's it for now. Thank you.